everyone, and welcome back to Twitch Tales. Where did we leave off in the previous episode? Apis Hive, Dragon Slayer, has just managed to liberate a great deal of the Lannis Woods from the tyranny of Luciferic, the young green dragon. So, we have a lot of decisions to be making right now. So, in the last episode, Apis helped the Royal Cross with the eradication of the remaining immediate threat, the half green dragon creatures that were attacking. Apis went to Vala and Rebecca and the other Fallen and ascertained that they were in fact deceased. And then used a potion on Vala, I believe, and ascertained that way that the body was no more. The body was merely a vessel now. The soul was in another place. And so, wasting no time, Apis then set off to where Luciferic had fallen and arrived there to see that there was a bit of a quake and poisonous gas emitted from the body in Luciferic's last dying throes. The magic that was suffusing him on account of being a dragon had sort of infused itself into the land around him, making it difficult to get to him to harvest body parts for at least a little while. Apis spoke with the Royal Cross members, who mentioned that the body of the dragon officially belongs to the king now, given that the king's royal army was involved in the slaying of it. Apis let out a little whimper at the prospect of not having dragon parts in their inventory, and so they managed to convince the royal guard that they were talking with, Jonathan, I believe his name was, that all we want is a few vials of blood. So we moved towards the dragon, tanked some of the poisonous gas around it, collected some of the dragon's blood in vials. We had 3 vials of blood. We opted to try and take, I think, some tooth or claws or something, and failed, and ended up with just blood and some dragon scales, enough scales to make some braces out of, but nothing more than that. Then we got out of the poisonous breath before it harmed us any further, and watched as the Royal Cross brought out some bandages and wrapped it around the long snake-like neck of Luciferic, and upon which, after which time it was finished, the body of Luciferic was shrunk down 2 sizes to the size of something small, like a small dog, and then lifted it up, placed it into a bag of coaling, and preserved the body for the king. After collecting your dragon parts, you went back to your elven village that was previously a dome, found that the dome itself had been disappeared, and the elves were now free. You spoke with them about their situation, found that one of the Dragonborn captors was... one of the Dragonborn captors was captured herself now and tied up. You got back all of your weapons, all of your belongings that was confiscated from you, your net and your longsword, and then set off towards the dragons. Oh, and listened to the plans, the future plans of a few of the elves. You found that Beladel and Olathea were intending on heading north to visit family in Arachel. A couple more of them were going travelling. A few of them were going to visit family in Bisglanta, an elven town nearby. And you, meanwhile, went to to find the dragon lair. You did some good scouting out and found a waterfall, and it seems like there might be a cave behind that waterfall. So, with a series of moments of confusion and a series of poor checks, you managed to fasten off your rope to a boulder over the top of the waterfall, and then sort of like abseil your way down in through the waterfall and into the cave behind it. In a secret cave behind it, you found the dragon's hoard. Several instruments, paintings, lots of money, various different items of presentation from the elves to the dragon to show deference. A figurehead from a ship, even though you are far from any water. Lots of cool and weird and wonderful things. One of which being a magical quiver. The magical quiver seems to be able to store a great deal more inside it than it would appear to be able to from the outside. You opened up a chest full of gold and platinum coins, and without the time to actually count it, you just handful after handful stuffed it into this quiver, seemingly bottomless, disappearing into this quiver. Leaving the treasure room of Luciferique, you headed back to where the captives were being held captive, the once elven village, and the site of the battle as well, and you discovered there that Polython, the head of the Penkempuir and Amgleshed Druids Guild, had enough rare oils and tinctures and salves and things to perform one reincarnation spell on one of the fallen heroes, and the town is about to have to vote on who is worth bringing back. In order to bring back more than one, we will need a lot of these rare herbs and spices and oils and things, finding and creating, and the spell has to be cast within 10 days of the person dying. So it is a possibility that Apis could go on a quest to go and get more of it, but you'll have to be quick about it, and it will delay the level up period. So that's where we're picking up this time, with the hard choice to make. Do we resurrect Vala? Do we resurrect Tao Chu? Do we resurrect any of the others that have fallen? What do you guys feel like doing? What's the plan from your perspective? Can we ask Polython how hard it is to get more of them in time, and if a bunch of money would help? You do so. You ask Polython, and she says it's not the cost of things that really is the problem here. It's the supply. These things are oils that have to have been boiled and distilled and fermented, and there's a whole process goes into all of these different oils and tinctures, and you have to have them in the right amounts, and it's all made from very rare ingredients that almost impossible to cultivate. So you have to find them growing in the wild. Once you've harvested them from one spot in the wild, they tend to migrate. It's very rare to find the same ingredients in one place more often than not. And it's a very difficult process of finding, distilling, cultivating all of the things we need to do to make the ingredients for this ritual. There are supplies of them around. I'm sure people, well-to-do people like the king would have a supply of them back at his own royal supply, but otherwise it's a matter of buying them whenever you find a merchant coming through who happens to have some, or seeking them out. There are elven villages nearby. I believe. Let's see. Would Polython know? Yeah, Polython would know. I believe there's a town sort of northwest of here called Pisglanta, a relatively large elven town. They might have some. There's also the town of the Four Sisters. They're a little more reclusive society of elves up to the north. There's another elven an elven community, much more spread out, much more nomadic, that you find around the Giftegald forest. There's the dwarven city of Grosswerk to the south. Dwarves aren't quite as no offense meant, but dwarves aren't quite as proficient with the sort of arts of boiling and refining this sort of ingredients that we need. So I wouldn't be quite so expectant to find any in Grosswerk. But that said, it is a large city, so they might have some just for trade or purchase. All I know is that I have managed to accrue about 1,000 gold pieces worth over the time here, and that's about what we need for one person. Polython, if we found the ingredients, would it be possible to make the oils and stuff in time to help Vala? It's possible. There are some that take months to prepare, so you would need to find or buy those as they are. But there are other ingredients that it would simply take a few minutes to mash them or cut them in certain ways, to apply them to certain chemicals. It really is a very complicated process, and I don't have the time to be going into it in great detail now. Are we giving them the gold? They can go buy their own stuff for the further reincarnations. Well, that's the thing though, innit? It's Sherlock. You can't buy it if there's no supply. You got to find it. You got to make it. You got to find people who are willing to sell it. Because anybody who has these ingredients have probably got them because they, in case of emergency, somebody can be reincarnated. How much of a delay would this cause for our level up? Depends how long you want to spend doing it. The spell, you learn from Polython that the spell has to be cast within 10 days of the person dying. Otherwise their soul is too far into the afterlife, to the outer planes, to come back. And so with 10-day window for Valor, and like what would it be, like a 7-day window for Tao Chu, you could spend 10 days looking and searching and hunting and buying all of these ingredients, and then level up. Maximum of 10 days delay due to time limits on the spell. Since we're going to have to make the tough choice. Almost like the title, the episode title is Tough Choices. How much gold did we get from the lair? You haven't counted it yet. It wasn't just like 10 gold that's easy to count. It was a chest full of gold. I'm not just going to tell you how much that is. You're going to have to take some time to actually count how much gold was in this chest full of gold. You do know that it was hundreds of coins. We did help with the Prin harvest. Between those elves and Edith, we might be able to get enough. Plus, we could pick up our own Displacer's cloak from the Four Sisters. It depends on that one unknown war that they were preparing for. Are the people we can trust, we can provide with the money to go to these various places and try and purchase the materials? Are there people you can trust? I mean, trust is on you really as the players. So whether or not you trust them is up to you. But you could approach various different people from Fondirg and ask them if they would go on various quests around to find places to spend money and things. There's always going to be risk, even if the person you give the money to you trust with your life. The world is a dangerous place, and the wild is a dangerous place, and so going between towns, you can always get attacked by a manticore or something, and so there's always a risk that the person you give the materials to, the money to go and get the materials, doesn't make it or gets attacked or whatever. Is there a downside to delaying the level up? Just the fact that you're not leveled up yet. Until you take 6 days of downtime to just rest and train, you don't get level 6. Can we go relay our tactical map to the Knights and Kingsguard before they leave the town? Yeah, they ain't going to be leaving town for a while. They've got a lot of cleanup to do with these dragons. Where is Apis currently? Apis is currently in the forest, in a forest called the Lannis Woods. They're not too far from where the dome is, where they were kept captive for a few days. They're not too far from where they fought a battle with Lucifreak. They're just sort of in the forest at the moment, surrounded by their sort of allies and fighting companions. The town might give us a horse to go about the quest to get more things. It's in their interest. Yeah. You might be provided with a riding horse to speed up your travel if that's the direction you wanted to go with things. Apis wants to help those in need and would try to collect the ingredients. Apis can, although Apis does want to help people in need, Apis can change from over time. Like if you guys collectively decide that whatever we've decided when we created Apis is no longer applicable, that's fine for those things to change, which you may notice has happened to the current alignment. When I was updating things to prepare for the new character sheet of having a fighter level, I thought it was a good time to reassess whether or not neutral good was still Apis' alignment, and I thought about it and decided that no, Apis has been acting much more chaotic good these days. I consider chaotic to be if you lack any sense of like rigidity in your own compass. Not necessarily anything to do with morals, but like your own compass. Apis, for instance, Apis has said that, you know, they always help people in need. They never kill anybody unless it's in self-defense, and all of these other things that we decided for Apis. And if Apis stuck to that 100% of the time, that would be lawful. If they stick to it most of the time but waver quite often, that's neutral. And if more often than not they're just kind of like all over the place on what they do, as is the nature of having 100 people deciding what Apis is doing, that's quite chaotic. So I decided that lately Apis's decisions have been hard to nail down into one sort of set of ideals of how they act, and so they are chaotic evil, chaotic good. I think we can go to one place to see if they have the ingredients, i.e. the Three Sisters, but I do believe if we can trust someone, we'll increase our chances, increase our intelligence, we'll get a bonus. Polython doesn't seem to think there's much of a chance to get another set. Polython is just being realistic about the rarity of these things. It's not like she's been to all of these towns and knows how much ingredients they have. She's just setting you up for a reality check of like, don't be surprised to get there and find out they don't have any. Queers Polython, the likelihood of finding more if the town really tries. She's not just going to give you a straight number. Like you're going to have to make a tough choice here. You're going to have to make a choice based on what you hope and believe, and essentially roll the dice and be like, let's hope that they have some. Polython's told you what she knows, in that the ingredients to make it are very rare. Even after you've got the ingredients, having somebody who knows how to prepare them in the certain way that needs to be prepared, it's even rarer. So finding someone that has them is rare. Finding someone that has them and is willing to sell them is even rarer. Can we take 20 to find a nice place to hide and check nobody is nearby to count how much gold we got from the lair? You absolutely can if that's what you want to do. Is that what you want to do, guys? You want to find out how much money you've got? Because as Apis is thinking these things, Apis is going like, do I have enough to buy these ingredients even if I had them? Do you want to take 20 to sort of hide somewhere and then count your money? Pick a destination, but send people to the other places to ask around. Sounds hopeless to me, to be honest. Yes, yes, yes. Not yet. Too many soldiers about. Most people saying yes, though. Slightly more yeses than nos. Let me put it to a poll real quick, because it is kind of down the middle there. All right, 62% of the vote saying yes. We're going to find somewhere safe and secret to count how much money we've got. So Apis thanks Polython for the information and says, look, I don't know if I'm in two minds about whether or not I'll be able to find enough ingredients and things to do this twice. So I'm gonna need to take some time to think on it. Is this like a time crunch thing? And Polython says, no, we've got about 10 days from the moment of death. Right. Live it with me. I'll be back soon. And you go off into the woods and kind of just like thinking. And as you're walking and thinking, you're looking for a place that's sort of far enough away from everybody. You walk for about 10 minutes or so until you're well and truly away from the sound of the guards and everybody around that. And then you, at that point, start actively searching for something to somewhere to sit and hide, and take another 10 minutes or so to find a place that is like a rocky kind of a cliff bit where a tree's fallen down like half over the top of it, and it's made like a nice little alcove underneath it. You tuck yourself into there, you get your quiver out, and you start pulling out the handfuls of gold. As you place your hand into the space of the quiver, you feel gold, and you start bringing the gold out, and then you start to count it. You count the gold for the next 10 minutes or so. Yeah, let's add it to your coin pouch. It's not actually... no, you know what? I'm going to keep it separate from the coin pouch, because you do have a coin purse that is your 12 gold, 6 silver, 9 copper. And then you have this other stashed gold. So that definitively is yours. Like, nobody could argue otherwise. That is your money. This other gold, people, Apis's synapses are in two minds about whether or not they're keeping it all, or whether they feel right to keep it all and everything. So I'll keep them as two separate things. but obviously those taking note, write it down. You have 156 silver pieces. That is the equivalent of 15 gold in silver. You have 798 gold pieces. And you have 102 platinum pieces. 102 platinum is the equivalent of 1,000 gold. 1,020. So overall, you have 1,830-ish gold. 1,830-ish gold from this in coins. And so at the end of that, you've counted it out. You've put your hands into the quiver, and you're looking and finding no gold, and you're pretty sure that's all of it. Leveling up in 5th edition doesn't require a massive amount of gold like it did in early editions. No, not a massive amount of gold, just a massive amount of time, and that's a house rule anyway. Leveling up in 5th edition, I could just like snap my fingers and you'd be leveled up, but that's not how I play it. I play it that you have to spend a number of days training equal to the level that you're going to take. So you need to take 6 days to train up to level 6. We should give most of it up, or Rob will change us to chaotic neutral and I'll be sad. I change based on your decisions. So if you want to remain chaotic good, you've got to do chaotic good actions. So we can well and truly afford the reagents. It's just a big if whether or not we can find them in time. Yep. Keep 800, give the rest away. I don't know where you've got this 800 from, Wraith. You are championing 800 gold being enough for all of the things you want, but you don't know how my economy works. You don't know how much it'll take to enchant all of the things. Can we turn the quiver inside out to find what else is in it? Unfortunately, with the quiver being very sturdy, with probably ivory ribs and things down it, unlike a bag of holding, which is essentially a canvas bag, you can't turn the quiver out inside out to get what else is inside it. You turn it upside down and nothing falls out. You sort of shake it and nothing falls out. Even the 3 arrows that are sticking out of one of the smaller pockets of the quiver, they don't fall out when you turn it upside down. You have to actively be looking to get things out of it. Give it equally to the towns that Lucifer savaged. How many days to the 3 sisters? 4 sisters. To the 4 sisters from where you are would be back to Fondirg, up to the dead forest, from there to Shadridge to the 3 sisters. I'd say it would be 2 days if you're like travelling at a good pace, 2.5 maybe. I'm feeling very muggable. Yes, you certainly are, carrying 1,800 gold on you, and you were mugged when you had 8 gold or something. Can we reach in and think of jewels and valuables just to check? You reach in and think of jewels, and you do in fact find jewels in there because you put jewels in there. So there are jewels in there. You find the contents of a jewelry box, which you took from the hoard and put into the quiver. Apis is not a jeweler, has no background in jewelry. You grew up in a hill village, not a mountain dwarf village, and so if you were a mountain dwarf, I would give you a chance to know a little bit about jewelry and how much it's worth. But you are a hill dwarf, and so you do not know how much this jewelry is worth. But a fair sum of money, you'd say. Any large diamonds? Not large enough for any magical purposes. Not like fist sized or anything stupid. Not even like the size of your fingernail. Just regular sized diamonds embedded into other jewelry, necklaces and things. All right, so we need to make some decisions, otherwise we'll stand here talking forever. What's the plan? We know how much money we've got in the quiver. We know that the other things in the hoard included some miscellaneous items like cutlery and candlesticks and furniture and stuff. Keepsakes like portraits and hand art drawn from the kids and things like that. Small instruments, books, a nice harp, paintings, sculptures. I think that was about it. Can we ask the dice if we can find the ingredients? That's a very good idea. Let's put a thumbs up or a thumbs down in the chat if you want to ask the dice. Will we be successful in finding the ingredients or something to that effect? We can decide on the wording later. But do you want to ask the dice the question of would we be successful in finding the ingredients? So have we asked them a question today? Is the next question. That's the problem when the days go over several sessions. Have we asked the dice a question yet today? We definitely asked them if something along the lines of if the Dragonborn were killed, but that was last night. That was definitely not on this day. Can we make it a double negative question just to keep with tradition? Yes, please do. We asked them something in the maze. Yeah, we definitely asked them stuff during last night, but did we ask them? Glamour says the last time we used them was to see if the Dragonborn would die, which I think you're right, I think that was the last time when we were talking to Charlie and stuff. And the whole fight with Enola and everything, which was all last night. So I'm pretty sure we haven't used the dice yet today, because all we did today was we woke up, the dragon came and said, "Hey, come with me." We got on his back. We flew over to we flew up to the other village. He showed us the map. He showed us Tammy and said, "Kill Tammy." And we said, "Oh, actually, maybe she should be a nanny for us instead." And he said, "Yeah, I guess. Come with me." And he got you on his back again, flew off, and then you encountered the fight with Mel and everything. Killed the dragon, found the hoard. You didn't use the dice to find his treasure hoard, did you? You didn't use the dice to be like, does he sleep in the river or anything? I don't think you did. That would have been the only time I can imagine today when you would have used the dice. We asked the otter where he lived. That's right. All right, cool. So we haven't yet used the dice today, which means that we should be guaranteed at least a truthful answer. Whether or not it's a cryptic answer or not, it depends on what we ask. So what is the wording of what we're going to ask? It was a very clear yes, we're going to ask the dice. As we're in this safe, secluded spot, we've just put all of our gold back into the quiver. There's a nice, like, flat area in front of us on the ground, sort of compacted mud. So we get the dice out and we're going to roll it there. As we reach them out of our box, get the nice bone dice out of the box. We try and formulate a question. We know from experience that this spell works best if it is a yes/no question. It works best if it's about something that's going to happen within the next short while. The sooner to the present day the question you're asking is about, the more likely you are to get a less cryptic answer, a realistic, truthful answer. If you ask about something that's going to happen in a year's time, there's very little chance that it's going to give you a clear answer. So you got to try and keep it as close to present day as you can, and basically a yes/no question. Otherwise, you're going to end up with an answer that you won't be able to interpret. Will we be successful in finding the ingredients to be able to reincarnate a second person? The problem I see with that is successful in finding the ingredients. It depends on the method of how you're looking for the ingredients. Like, are you going to start searching for them, like hunting in the wilderness for wild ingredients, or are you going to go to towns and ask for ingredients? Because those are two different things with two different chances of success. If we travel through location, via location and back, will we obtain the needed items to successfully perform a resurrection? That would be an interesting one. That's pretty. That's getting towards lawyer wording there. Tree of Dave. Let me copy paste Tree of Dave's wording there. I think we can work on that. Which of the locations were we told about has the ingredients? We don't know which places has ingredients. We were told of some possibilities. The possibilities she mentioned were Pisglanta, which is a relatively large elven town to the northwest. You haven't been there before. The Four Sisters, which is a series of 4 small elven towns in the north. She didn't mention it, but you know Shadridge has Edith's potion shop. Edith might have some of those oils and tinctures. She mentioned a dwarven city to the south called Grosswerk. Grosswerk could have some, even though they're dwarves and not elves. There's a chance that they have some just on the nature of their size as a city. She also mentioned a wandering nomadic tribe in the Giftigald forest, but the dangers there is that the Giftigald is very much in the terrain of your sworn enemy, Unguhef. Then there's just the wild and the wilderness of like hunting for it. You could go back to Shafgushul, the destroyed dwarven town that you're from, and see if you can hunt around there. Maybe there's an old destroyed potion shop or something. Can we find the stuff in time? Could be likely a yes if we go to the right places, but if we ask and it says yes and we go to the wrong places, it's a game over on that plan. Like, can we find? Yes, if you go, yeah, if you go to this place, and it doesn't give you the place, so you're like, oh, it says yes, so we're guaranteed to find them no matter where we go, and then you don't find them. Isn't necromancy illegal in this world? How is this not necromancy? Necromancy is illegal in this world. There are certain people that, so you can anything to do with healing magic and resurrection magic is licensed. It is all counted as necromancy in my world, but it is licensed. You have to go through tests. You have to apply. You have to get through the king's permission and essentially and stuff. And Polython is one of the people who has a license to bring people back. It would be 7 days if we want to bring Tau back. Yeah, I can't remember. I could look at the timeline if we really cared. If we decide that we are going to bring Tau back, I'll obviously work out exactly how long ago he died. But I think it was 3 days ago. All right. So let's work on this together. So if we travel through to location via locations and back, where do people want to look? Let's ask that as the next question. Really. We're really only with the dragon for 3 days. Yeah, man, it was crazy 3 days, but I'm pretty sure it was only 3 days. So having just checked the timeline, Tao Chu died on the 12th. It is now the 16th. He's been dead for 4 days. We were captive of the dragon for 3. So we have 6 days remaining to get Tao Chu resurrected, to reincarnated, I should say. If Tao Chu is the one we're going for. All right, so back to it. If we travel to, where do we want to go to? What's the plan? Are we going to the Four Sisters via Shadridge? Because we can go to the Four Sisters via Shadridge easy enough. Shadridge is on the way to the Four Sisters, so we could go to Edith's shop, go to the Four Sisters. If we don't have enough at that point, then we can take a huge diversion off to find Pisglanta somewhere in the forest to the northwest. But the only ones that are on the way is Pisglanta and the Four Sisters. We could, of course, go to Grosverk and even further south and find some larger cities, some human cities and things. I'll tell you what I'll do. Let's go to... Which one is it? Is it this one? That's the Lannis Woods. That's where we are at the moment. We are currently at the moment around about the second N of Lannis there. That's where we're hanging out and having this conversation. Panith, right about in the central left of the artwork there. Panith is the name of the elven town where we've been spending the last 3 days as captive. Fondirg, of course, is over there at the bottom of the map there, right at the very top corner where you see Deadwood. That is on the way to Shadridge. So if we want to go to Shadridge, we have to go up through Deadwood and then past that to Shadridge and then past that even further to the Four Sisters. Pisglanta, the elven town, is like way past in that direction, off the map in the northwest. So it's not on the way. And then Grosverk is like further south of Fondirg, and then everything else is further south of that. So north. Put a thumbs up if you want to go north. That includes Pisglanta, the Four Sisters, and Shadridge. Put a thumbs down if you want to go south or west, which would include like just foraging in the Giftergeld. Because the Giftergeld forest is like southwest of you. So south to the Giftergeld, south to Grosverk, south to any of the other human towns, human cities that are south of here, or north to any of the sort of elven forests. Alright, well, it looks like most of Apis is wanting to go to the north. So should the question be, if we travel through to Four Sisters via Shadridge, let's put that. If we travel through to Four Sisters via Shadridge and back to Fondirg, will we obtain the needed items to successfully perform a reincarnation on Tao Chu? Is that what we're saying? Is that the questioning? I mentioned one more location further than the Sisters, did I? I mean, further than the Sisters, you're getting into the Great Expanse. The Great Expanse is where they're currently having some problems with something unknown, because that's an arc of the campaign that you decided not to follow. So the Great Expanse is a large, unmapped, uncharted forest. There's something going on there. You could potentially find the ingredients in it because it's a big sort of magical forest. Going south could be getting into Ungerhef's territory, and we barely managed to handle his son. Yeah. A second person. Okay, Milsey, that's a good one. Yeah, we'll replace that wording with a second person, because then we don't know if it's Tauchu or Vala, but it counts for both. Definitely add the time limit to it somehow. Okay. How are we going to add the time limit? If we travel through to Four Sisters via Shadridge and back to Fondirg, will we obtain the needed items to successfully perform a reincarnation on Tauchu in time? Oh, sorry. I've said Tauchu somehow. I thought I'd changed that to on a second person. I think that covers it. Alright, some people are arguing that we should change second person. Put thumbs up if you want to keep it as a second person. Keep it kind of vague. Put a thumbs down if you want to specifically specify Vala. Most people just wanting to keep it vague. Just say, will we have the resources? Will we be able to successfully get the resources to spend? Alright. If we head to Four Sisters via Shadridge, will we be able to get the resources for it? Okay. Apis gets out the dice. Apis asks, if I travel through to Four Sisters via Shadridge and back to Fondirg, will I obtain the needed items to successfully perform a reincarnation on a second person in time? And Apis lets the dice go. And as the first dice hits, there is a sort of a very loud squawking of a bird rings through Apis's mind. The second dice hits, and you smell like a stagnant water pool. And the third dice hits, you get the sensation of a chilly breeze coming through a ratty moth-eaten blanket. You get this really sour taste in your mouth, and these dice keep bouncing, and each one conjuring a different sensation in your mind. Each of them are not very positive experience, not a very positive sound. It is not the worst things that you've tasted and smelt and felt from these dice. But it is quite clearly leaning towards the no side, the woe side. You are left with a feeling of woe. So, interpret from that what you will. It is clearly not a yes, but it could be that the Four Sisters and Shadridge don't have enough of enough for 1,000 gold pieces worth of ingredients, but they do have 900 gold pieces worth of ingredients. Or it could be that they just don't have any at all. It's up to you. Like you can interpret that how you will. You can still roll the dice. You can ask them. You can ask the dice another question immediately if you want to try and clarify. But every time you ask them a question, there's an increasing chance that you're going to get a randomized answer. So, what do people want to do? Do we want to ask the dice another question immediately to try and narrow it down? Put a thumbs up, thumbs down. Do you want to ask the dice another question? See if you can narrow it down at the risk of it being a false answer. All right. Apis decides now. We're not sure what the chances of the false positive is going to be, and so we wouldn't be able to trust the answer anyway. And so they don't ask the dice another question. Instead, they pack up what they've got. You've made sure that you haven't left behind any of your gold or platinum on the ground from where you were counting it. And then you head back to where? Where is Apis going now? What's the plan? Are you going back to Fondirg, back to try and find the Royal Cross? Are you gonna? Is there more you want to do here in the Lannis Woods? What's your intention? You're gonna go find Polython and give her your decision? What is the time? The time is like 2, 3 in the afternoon, something like that. It's mid-afternoon probably. Can we give the elves back the children's drawing? That's probably a good idea. Yes. We'll arrive in No, if we set off now, we wouldn't arrive in Shadridge before nightfall, but we could arrive in the Deadwood. We've spent a night in the Deadwood before. Wasn't very pleasant, but we didn't get attacked or anything. It was just a whole bunch of termites. We need to go back to the elf village anyway to collect Charlie's and Briar's weapons to bring them along. Okay, gotcha. All right, so we'll do that then. A few reasons to go back to the village, so we'll head there. So Apis has tidied up, made the decision. A lot of Apis's mind anyway is decided on Vala being the one to bring back and not worry about trying to get enough money for everything else. Apis heads back to Paneth to the remainder of which of the elf captives had stuck around there. And as you arrive, you start to hand out the things that you'd found at the dragon's lair. There are a couple of the royal guard that you recognise here, the royal cross. Two of the human ones are sort of chatting with the elves up on the canopy as well, up on the mezzanine. As you get up there, they're sort of talking with them in common about their experiences, taking notes of everything. You can see that one of them has like a large stone tablet, like a circle, like a dinner plate sized stone, with runes around the edges of it, and he's just kind of holding out between the two of them as they're sort of recounting their experiences with the dragon. You arrive and you get the artwork out to start handing them out. You see this. Do you want to go over to them, or do you want to go and find somebody who's not busy and give them the kids' art? We're quite weak from the dragon's death throes and such. Yeah, we're on. Our maximum hit points is 57. I think we are on 26 or so hit points out of 57. We could stay the night with the elves, head to Shedridge in the morning. Yeah, true. Probably shouldn't be travelling until we've had a proper long rest. That's probably a good idea, actually. Alright, so we're discreet. We're going to be discreet and ask someone if they want it. Be stealthy so that they don't know we found the lair. Okay, gotcha. We don't want the king's folk asking any questions about what we've got. Gotcha. Alright, so we stay away from the king's guards, who are clearly doing like a debrief of what's happened and recording information about what's happened. And instead we find one of the other elves that are otherwise not busy. We go and find the sculptor, and she's working on the stonework that we gave her, the stone, and it looks like she's barely done anything to it at all, because she's back in elf mode of like, I've got decades to make this into what I want. Not having to rush a new piece of artwork every time. She is going to leave. Yeah, it seems like she's like, I'm going to leave soon. For an elf that lives like 700 years, the soon might be in a week. That's still like very soon. Beladel and Olethea were leaving like immediately. They'd packed up and were leaving. But the sculptor was like, Alana, that's her name. Alana was like, I'm going to be leaving. I'm going to go back to Pisglanta and have a little wander around. I'm going to go find myself, sort of thing, and come back. But she has always intended to. Rithal also left immediately. Rithal, the whole area here was way too painful for her, too many memories. But Alana was going to be leaving just soon. In the next few days, she'll probably be up and going. But for now, she's got a nice piece of stonework to be working on. So she's basically studying it. She's doing the who was it? It was Michelangelo, I think, that saw David in the block, and he just kind of went back and studied the block for years. It's kind of before he even made any chisel marks. He was just like studying what he was going to be doing with it. She's doing a similar thing. She's sort of polished up the outside, taken off any loose pieces that won't work, and then she's looking at what she's got left and what she can work with, and she's just kind of studying it as you approach. Do you want to roleplay this out, or do we just want to say you give her the things for the elves and she works through it? Is there anything in particular that you want to say to her, or you want to see her reaction? All right, so you approach her then from behind and sort of to announce your presence, and she turns to see you and says, How are things going? And you say, not too bad. Listen, just on the in the interests of discretion here, I don't particularly feel comfortable these royal guards getting involved. They haven't been through what you guys have been through, what we've been through. I don't think they need to know that I found these things. So I just don't. I don't want to keep them, and I think you could use them, or you and your community could use them. And I don't think the Royal Guards really need to get their hands on it, to be honest. She's a little confused about what you're talking about. So you reach into your bag and you start to bring out the letters, the drawings, the little pictures, the finger paintings and things. All the things that you'd found that were like, what did I call them? Keepsakes. The little keepsakes of elven things. And she sees them and her eyes kind of light up and she smiles, takes them from you. So you found where he was keeping them, eh? Yes, I did. I'm not sure if it's the only place, but if this seems like everything, then it's probably the only place that he's got to keep things. She sort of flicks through them, sort of slowly, taking each one in and sort of smiling. There's like a sadness in her eyes as well. There's like she's happy, but seeing these things are painful as well. She just kind of looks a little choked up and looks at you and you can read that there's like an expression of thanks and gratitude. I'll make sure that they get to the people who'll appreciate them most, the people who need to see them. Unfortunately, Rathal's already left, but I'll keep a hold of these. I'll keep a hold of. She'll want to see these, I think, when she's ready. It might be several years before she's ready to see them, but I think one day she'll be happy that I've kept a hold of them. I hope. Ask if they want the jewellery back too. Do you want to ask for ask if they want the jewellery back, if the jewellery was theirs? You don't know for sure if the jewellery was even theirs, so if you want to keep a hold of it, you can. But if you want to ask them if it's theirs, thumbs up in the chat. Relay the location to her in case the elves something or other may want the cherished keep. If I recall correctly, there's lots of stuff we couldn't bring back. The elves should know the location. So there's a couple of people saying that they should know the location. Okay, yes. All right, so we'll ask them about the jewellery. Now, next question. Thumbs up if you want to tell her where the location of his lair was. Do you want to tell her he was sleeping in a waterfall X number of yards from here, sort of thing? Like, do you want to give her directions to the waterfall? Can always ask that if the things you hand over aren't theirs, you'd appreciate a share of them back. That's a good point. Yeah, could keep the jewellery, but it feels wrong when their likely rightful owners are right there. Plus, it could help them with relocating if it's not. Even if it's not, and they say it is, who cares? Let them have it. All right. Yes, everybody's saying yes. Tell her where the location of the thing is as well. So, she says yes. I'll make sure that these get to the right people. And you say, in the interests of that, I also found these. And you take out the jewellery box that you found. You open it up. You presented the jewellery box and you say, do you recognise this? I'm going to see if she does recognise that. She says, I don't think I do, no. And you open it up. It's filled with quite a bit of, and she says, oh, well, that's, and she starts to pluck pieces out. I don't think this is ours. She takes out another couple pieces. I don't recognise any of this at all. It does look elven made. She takes out a nice, really, really thin gold leaf that's literally a leaf. It looks like some kind of fern, and it's like a really thin pendant on the end of a necklace. This is beautifully designed. This would be worth quite a bit of money, I imagine. I would say that this is elven. Oh, this isn't though. And she takes out another piece that looks like a It just looks like a huge warhammer sort of thing that's made out of like a brass kind of material, but it's got rings around the handle made of silver. She says, this is, I wouldn't say that this is elven. In fact, yes, I'd say only about, she starts piecing through them. At a guess, I'd say like half of this is elven jewelry, and the other half is dwarven. She says questioningly, looking at you as the dwarf, hoping that you would recognise. I'm not sure whose this is, but I'm pretty sure it's not ours. You say, okay. Well, I found it in his lair was behind a waterfall. By the way, there's a waterfall just west of here, and she jumps in and says like. Between the two so-and-so trees, she like gives some sort of identifying remark, and you're like, oh yeah, that's the one. She goes, oh yes, I know it. Says, well, behind that waterfall there's a cave. And she goes, oh right, there shouldn't have been. I don't think there ever was. And he says, yeah, there was something about the floor that was different, and I think he'd built the cave for himself behind the waterfall. Oh, I mean that's quite smart, I suppose. That's where they found all of this. Yeah, there's some other stuff there as well, like things I couldn't carry. Like there's a figurehead of a ship and all kinds of things. And she looks confused at that. A ship? Hey, it's like a almost fish-headed thing, but like a humanoid body with like swirls on it and things. Oh, there's no boats around here. We're nowhere near the sea. I mean, that's what I'm telling you. What I found. All right. What are we doing with the jewelry, everybody? It seems like it might not have belonged to this particular village. What do you want to do with it? Do you want to hold on to it all? Do you want to give them all of it? Do you want to give her just the elven stuff and keep the rest? What are your plans? Do we recognise anything from the dwarven bunch? Let's make a history check. Oh, nice, 19. Oh, sorry, I should have rolled that on the camera. 19 plus your history of 3, 22. You do. As she's pulled out sort of the stuff on the top, which was mostly this delicate elven things, she got down to slightly more sturdy materials like that warhammer. The warhammer wasn't attached to anything. It was just like on its own, a little brass bronze warhammer. She got down to that one. She found a brooch that kind of looked like a sun shape with a face in it. There's a few more like sturdy things that are made of brasses and bronzes and a little bit more hardy materials. Those do look dwarven to your eye. You don't recognise any of them as like, that was my mother's brooch or anything like that, but you do recognise it as dwarven made. Not all of it though. As she's picking through it and you're picking through it, you can see that there's a few other things in there that you, at a guess, you'd say that it's probably human or maybe gnomish jewelry. A couple of pieces. For the most part, it was elven, then followed by probably dwarven, and then the rest was bits and bobs from other cultures, possibly. Can we get a quick idea of how much it might be worth? As I said before, you're not a jeweler. You've got no background in jewelry or appraising jewelry. You're not a mountain dwarf, so you don't have any background in like mining precious golds or materials. So you have nothing in your history or background that would tell you how to appraise jewelry. You have no idea how much it would be worth. All right, let's put it to a poll. Keep any of the jewelry. Keep everything except for the elven with 53% of the vote. So Apis says, well, listen, it is beautiful stuff. It's well made. I know that you appreciate beautiful art, especially elven art. And I don't see any reason, I don't see any way of possibly finding out who it did belong to at this stage. If anybody's likely to come across other elves and find out who it belonged to, I'm sure you'd be a better suited for that than I. So why don't you guys keep this the elven stuff? I'll take the rest of it and see if I can find who it belongs to. But you keep a hold of that elven stuff. It's a good chance that it came from your family, your ancestors, your friends, your extended relatives in some fashion anyway. So it feels right to keep it with you. And she says, I mean, are you sure? You found it. You saved us from the dragon. You're responsible in a great way. This would fetch you quite a lot of money, I'm sure, if you sold it to the right people. And you say, yeah, but I'm not interested in the money so much as just I don't want people to hurt after what you've been through for 3 years. I was only here for 3 days, and I can't imagine what it would have been like for you. And she says, not pleasant. She said, we all helped defeat him. We all helped defeat Luciferic. It was a combined effort. So look, I'm serious. You hold on to the elven jewelry here. If you ask around, maybe somebody knows. Maybe somebody recognises it or knows who would have made it, or recognises the handiwork of the jeweler and whatever. But if nothing else, you can help use the jewelry to rebuild the what you've lost. She stands up and says, I'm not sure, I'm not super familiar with dwarven cultures, but do you hug? And she kind of puts her arms out. Do you give her a hug? Yes. Yes, Willow. All right, so you say, we hug. And you hug her around the waist as she, well, actually, as an elf, she's not actually that much taller than you, maybe like a foot at most. So she puts her arms around you, you put your arms around her, and then break after just a couple seconds, and she says, thank you for everything you've done. Then you take out the elven jewelry and donate it to her. She's going to distribute it among the other elves. I'm going to go into here now and adjust the amount of jewelry that you have. Minus. Oh, okie dokie. Boo! Alright, so X gold pieces given to Paneth. Y gold pieces remain in the box. Let's check over the shoulder of the king's army. Yeah, you look around. Nobody's approaching you. They're still over on the main deck, 2 trees over, just talking with the people there about their experiences. Tisharu's over there talking with the guards as well at the moment. So you've given them a bunch of the keepsakes, all of the artwork and things from their kids and stuff like that. You've given them the elven jewelry. You didn't bring the harp because it's a portable harp, but you still had to use your hands to climb and things, so you didn't just walk through the forest with that. So you didn't bring the harp. You left that there. You left the paintings there. You left the big sculptures and things there. But you've told her about where to find those things. The anthropomorphic dolphin figurehead you've definitely left in the cave because that thing was massive. You took the chest of coins, the quiver, the jewelry box, keepsakes, and the miscellaneous jewelry, miscellaneous stuff. You tell them about that as well, like, hey, there's also like candlesticks and things there for helping you rebuild with furniture and things. Now that that's done, this part of Apis would like to go to Fondirg to vote for Vala and stay there for levelling up. Also, before we tuck in for the night, could we sit by the campsite and catch up with Mel? Ask her about all the flowers she's seen and how she's been feeling about her new armour. Missed her fuzzy French ways and want to make sure she's okay. Sure thing. We can do that. We've got a few different options here. Where does Apis plan to sleep tonight? Here in Paneth, the elven town, celebrating the freedom of the elves one last night together. Out in the woods, just like recharging social batteries, just being out in the wilderness, getting back to nature, spending some time with Mel. With Briar, go and ask Briar like if she's cool with you coming over to her place and sleeping with her in her place. Again, like fewer interactions, just you, Mel, and Briar. In Fondirg, you could go back to the library, well, not the library, but the Tattered Page, the inn that has a bunch of books and things where you've been staying the last few nights. Well, not the last few nights, you know what I mean. Or on your way to Shadridge, like, let's get a move on, let's get started, let's start going to Shadridge and sleep on the way. Ooh, okay, so we did not have a majority only 48% of the vote wanted to sleep to go to Briar and ask if we can sleep with her. 42% wanted to sleep here in Paneth, and 6% wanted to sleep out in the woods. So if we remove these bottom 3 votes, the bottom 3 options, and put it down to a poll between Briar or Paneth, then we can get a majority. All right, 65% of the vote Apis decides that they're going to go find Briar and ask if they can stay with her for the night. That doesn't mean that we have to leave Paneth right now. We have, as I say, it's late afternoon. Let's put a time on it. Let's say you're about 4 o'clock. Obviously, this time of year, it'll probably get dark around 6:30, 7 o'clock or something. So you've probably got about 3 hours-ish of the light left, and then obviously a few more hours after that to wind down and do any downtime activity that you want to do. So with the last remaining hours of the day, what do you want to do? Do you want to just go find Briar right now and say, hey, let me stay at your place? Or do you want to spend a few more hours here and then go find Briar? You have to eventually get back to Fondirg for the vote of what to do with Valor and that. Don't forget to collect Charlie's things. Yeah, we'll do that before I do forget. You head down while you think on it. Apis heads down to the hut where all of the weapons and things were being stored. You pick up Charlie's belongings. Pick up Briar's belongings. Everything that was confiscated from them when they were captured before they escaped. And Charlie fairly nearby. He was originally. I've lost track of who took the bodies back to town. I'll hand with it and say that Charlie's come back. If he took the bodies away, then he's back again. Yeah, I'll say Charlie is nearby, and as you're collecting his stuff, he comes over and grabs them himself. Says, "Thanks, I can take these. I can take it from here. I appreciate what you did. I'm sorry if everything got a little bit hectic and a little bit having to make up the plans as we go, but I think we worked well. I mean, we survived with our life, so obviously we worked well enough. I'm glad I got to know you a little more, Apis. Sorry that it was under such circumstances. More time here, more time here. Travelling to Briar sooner rather than later is preferred by me. Probably want to get back to Fondirg before sunset. Harder to find Briar the later we're getting back. Alright, well, we'll spend a little bit of time here. 33% here, 66% travelling to Briar's. Alright, cool. That sounds like a good compromise to me. So we spend like another hour here at Paneth village, talking to people and avoiding the King's Cross as much as we can. What's the chances that they want to have a word with you? I think they do want to have a word with you, so if you want to actively avoid them, it's going to be a challenge. Let's have a look. Yeah. Alright, so up to you guys. You can choose to actively avoid the King's Cross, but if you do spend the rest of the hour here in Paneth, there's a good chance that they'll find you, so you'll have to make like a stealth check to avoid them or something. You can go and hide out in the forest till they've left, and then come back if you really want to avoid them. I just rolled to see how well they're doing to look for you, to ask you questions about your experiences and things. It's up to you whether or not you want to avoid those questions. Remember, Apis does not lie well. Historically, every time we roll a deception, it has not gone well. Better not be in Fondirg after dark because there's thieves about at that time. Yeah, so the plan, obviously, if we're going to stay at Briar's, I was thinking the plan would be that Apis would stay here for another hour or so, then they'd travel back to Fondirg, which would take like an hour. They've got an hour in Fondirg to like wrap up their business there and tell them, hey, I think we should bring Valor back for these reasons. And then it just about gets dark at that point. You head south with Briar. Spend the rest of the evening at Briar's place. Apis does like to try and talk their way out of things, though. They certainly do. Often just goes badly. Alright, so I'll put it to a short poll then, just a 1 minute thing, I think. King's Cross. I keep calling them King's Cross. Royal Cross. Royal Cross want to talk. What does Apis do? Talk with them. Avoid them. Leave Paneth. Alright, so talk with them so you can just get it over and done with. I'll put it to a 2-minute poll, why not? The Royal Cross want to talk with you to get your interpretation of events. What does Apis want to do? Do you want to just talk with them, get it out of the way, to speak with them, risk them seeing that you've got your fancy new quiver and whatever else you've got, and say like, hey, where did you get that? Have you found the dragon's lair? I know that a lot of Apis is worried about the Royal Cross like claiming some of the treasure and whatnot, and forcing you to give it over. Do you want to stay in Paneth but avoid them, which would require some sort of stealth checks to make sure that you're avoiding them as best you can and without them seeing you and asking you questions, or just leave, just straight up leave. You don't get the chance to like say goodbye to your Paneth friends so much. You don't get the opportunity right now to sort of wrap up any relationships that you have going on here. But you also don't have to talk to the Royal Guard if you just straight up leave. So those are your options. What do you want to do? All right. Most of Apis saying like, no, we'll just leave. I don't want to talk to the Royal Cross. 72% of Apis deciding we'll just leave Paneth. So you grab your belongings. You set off out. No time for goodbyes to people. You've already kind of done that in minor dribs and drabs here and there. But no time for celebrating with them or anything, celebrating their newfound freedom. As you see them kind of wrapping up their discussions with Tisharu and a couple of the others, you quickly make your way out of Paneth and you head for Fondirg. You walk back through the Lannis Woods until you get to the road just north of Fondirg, and then you follow the road south until you get to the Fondirg city gate, the town gates, and it's a sight for sore eyes to see this human civilization again after the last 3 days in the wilderness being captive by a green dragon. As you're approaching the gates, you see a familiar a half elven, half human Bridden man on the top of the gates, a knight of Kvosna called Joey. Joey sees you approaching and sort of smiles and waves. So I see you made it then. Didn't become dragon food. Open the gates, he says, and the gates start to open as you approach. He disappears out of sight and reappears down at the bottom to greet you as you come in through the gates. Welcome home, I suppose, or welcome back at the very least. How many husbands does Wraith have? So many. So, congratulations on staying alive and everything you might have gone through. I can't imagine what it would have been like for you. Hey, I was a bit tough for his taste. Yeah, spit you back out again. It's the fact that you don't wash, bloody dwarves. And sort of laughs, kind of like testing the water as to like how I don't really know this guy. Am I good with joking around or not? Are you sticking around Fondirg then? What's your intention? What do you tell him? For those who weren't around when we introduced Joey, a Bridden in my world is a half-elf, half-human. They're usually relatively attractive because they've got sort of the best of both genetics. He is quite a young fella, maybe in his early 20s by the looks of his face, but obviously with his elven blood he could be like 40 and still look like he's in his early 20s. He's got quite a chiseled jaw, quite muscular, toned and athletic without being like stocky. He's about 5'10" or so, 5'11". He's got nice brown hair, swept back, and wears the Knights of Kvosna insignias on his bracer and whatnot. I can't remember if he has a beard or not, but it's been a few days since you've seen him, so I'll say that he does now. He has like a chin strap kind of a thing. When did 8-bit have a bath last? Not too long ago, actually. When you first got a room in the Tattered Page here in Fondirg, you made a point of bathing. Say, aye, well, after that, miss, I could probably do with a wash. Might be about time for my annual bath. He laughs as well. So I'm not fully decided at this stage, Joey. I'm still trying to get my head around a few things. There's a meeting at the hall, yeah? And he says, yes, there is. So you've been told to, and you say, aye. He says, yeah, fair enough. Yes, you know the way, don't you? And you say, I do. That's right. Well, good luck to you, and pats you on the shoulder. It's good to see you. We have to go, but yeah, I'll look fondly to meeting you again. Here, let me play you a song of our friendship. Take out the pan flutes and play a love song. I think you'd scare everybody in the town off if you play a bloody panpipes musical. You did nearly drown in the waterfall. Yeah, that was a wash for you. That was a bath. That was earlier today, so you're probably still undergarments still bloody soggy. Is Joey going to the meeting? He's not going to the meeting. He's on guard duty. He's on gate duty. So you leave Joey and the other Knights of Kvosna here on the gate, and you head through the. You have pan flutes, but you can't play them. So there's a running joke, Neonovec, that we do have panpipes, and we are proficient in them, as you can see over there on the character sheet. But for some reason or another, the dice, every time we try to roll pan flutes, something that we should have like at least a +4 to, we can't roll above a 10. Unless, story-wise, rolling below a 10 would be good, in which case then we get an average. It's not a joke, it's a fact. Yeah, it's a running fact. Almost every time we've played the panpipes, it has gone dismally. Unless average would actually be worse, in which case it goes average. They had to deal with dragons and kobolds. They don't need our panpipes on top of that, yeah. So you make your way to the town hall. The first thing you notice is that when you get to the well at the centre of town, there is a very heavy boulder sitting on top of the well, and it has been boarded up beneath the boulder. So boards on it, heavy boulder on top of the boards, and there is a signpost on like sort of every thirds of the way around the town square saying this well has been boarded up until further notice. Use the one on the east of town. Use the one on the east of town, and tells you the directions to it or whatever. But people are expected to know if they live here in the town. They know where the wells are. You know this to be because what you heard is that the kobolds were coming up through this well and kidnapping people. That's how some of the people of Lucifreak's horde were kidnapped in the first place. You make your way past that though, and into the town hall, and you meet with the rest of the main influences of town. Mayor Chuffy Gardens is there, a hobbit male. There is also I was going to say Vala. No, she's dead. There is, who else would be there? Pertran Diddle Jibsworth Leon Findlesmith Gregory Smacklebum, a rock gnome who is one of the people in charge of the Knights of Kvosna here. Who else would be at this meeting? Nathine is Nathine Durian Jingle Jangle Smetasmore, who is also a rock gnome and a Wolverine of the Knights of Kvosna. Who else would be here? Polython is here. Eidfed Polython Avadonor, who is here. Laspran Charlie Minithal is a Briton and he is a Laspran of the PEA. Briarpatch is here as well. Egano Briarpatch Badgerbum Frizzletop Blackthorn, a hobbit who was raised by gnomes. Then Rebecca is here. Rebecca is one of the arcanists of sorry, Rebecca was one of the ones who died, didn't she? It was Vala. Pretty sure it was Rebecca. Yeah, Vala, Mark, Rebecca, Tabek, Simon, James, and Richard. So Rebecca isn't here. Nim is, though. You're not writing all those names down. You can just bite me. Is Cassandra around? Cassandra is not around, no. She's been put through enough, so they decided to give her a little time off. But Charlie he's hardy enough to decide that he's going to be here. He's obviously made his way back to town just before you did. Nim is also here, even though he's been through a lot as well. He also is, since the loss of Rebecca and Vala, they are Nim is one of the only people who are sort of highest ranking of the Arcanists. You also recognise another woman that you haven't gotten the name of. I think maybe you got her first name, but she's a young rock gnome woman artificer. She is, when you met her anyway, she was in the role of assistant to Vala. When you met her, it was because she was sort of receptionist in the school hall that you went to meet with Vala. Young rock gnome woman. You might have got her name at one point, so I'll just tell you it. It's Nira, Nira. Nira Adelaide Catanin Sutton Blackstrand is her name. She's present as well. Is Tammy there? No, Tammy isn't there yet. And I believe that might be all of them. I think that's everyone there. So you walk in, they recognise that you're there, and they say, Epis, let's see, Trophy Gardens. You are Common Harvester. He says, Apis, just in time. We were just about to get down to the nasty business, unfortunately, so good that you could make it. Please, have a seat. He closed the door behind you, have a seat at the table, along with the rest of them. And he kind of puts his head in his hands like this and says, the next thing on the agenda, unfortunately, can't put it off anymore, is... we have to make a decision on who, if anyone, is worthy of being... not worthy of, but who deserves our consideration in being resurrected. And Polython says, reincarnated. Sorry, same thing. She says, it's not. He says, okay, yes, Polython, you're right. It's not the same thing. Worthy of being reincarnated. Somebody starts to speak off to his left, and he says, no, just let me lay everything out first. We've lost a number from Fondirg, and may I start by saying I commend everyone on acting in the face of danger, finding the courage to tackle such a legendary monster and come away to tell a tale is admirable. Those that died did not die from weakness, they died simply because of the power of the foe that we faced. The ones we lost are as follows. We lost Vala. What's her full name? He probably would use her full name. Oh, actually, no, he just calls her Vala. Yeah. He says, we lost Vala, a wonderful arcanist and wizard from the Arcanist Entente. We lost... what was his name? His full name. We lost Egano Mark Harold. He kind of looks confused. He looks like he's struggling and goes towards Polython, and she says, Egano Mark Harold Anthony Lenny Jonathan Patrick Milton. He says, we lost Mark. We lost Rebecca. He just calls her Rebecca. No, actually, he probably would give her her final name because Vala had a different reason. He says, we lost Rebecca Jansen. We lost Tao Chu Wang, a lion of the Knights of Kvasna here in town. We lost Nambra Corianthil, a wolverine of the Knights of Kvasna here in town. We lost Kevin. And somebody says Smith, I think, and he says Kevin Smith. I'm afraid I don't remember his surname. Everybody just knew him as Kevin. A baker here in town. We lost Michael Wendell, a shoemaker here in town. As he goes through another half dozen names or so, you realise that the people of Fondirg, many of them didn't want to lie down and take their circumstances. They fought back regardless of their experience, regardless of whether they were fighters or trained. They just knew that if they didn't fight this dragon and its army, there would be nothing to fight for later. There'd be nothing to save. So many of them, the next half dozen names or so, are just members of the town that stood up to fight. He gets to the end of the list and says, and now comes the very difficult decision, the very difficult truth of the matter. Eithfed Polython has acquired over the years a number of oils and tinctures and salves that can aid in the reincarnation, the creation of a new body, am I right? And she says, that's right. Aid in the new creation of a new body for one of these souls. It's up to us to decide whether it's right to bring one of them back, and who that should be. I open the floor to discussion. There's just silence in the room as he sits back down. Can I have you make an insight check? Apis. Let's go with an Apis dice, which is this one here. These are the other ones. Apis. Insight check. 11. 11 plus your insight of 2. 13. With a 13 insight, you look around and you can see that the silence is stemming from each of them trying to determine, how do you value a life? How do you compare one person's worthiness of bringing them back from another? It's like everyone's just been presented with a real life trolley problem, and they've got to try and determine, is it right to choose that one person should live and the other shouldn't. However, as you look around, you see that one person is silent for a different reason. You can tell on the face of Nira, Vala's assistant, that she is kind of looking around everybody's eyes, not catching anybody's eyes. Looks like she's trying to say something and then doesn't, like keeps failing to find the opening words until she sees your eyes, and then she kind of looks down and just kind of looks at the table in front of her. Egino, Sparrow, you would know, Briar would know that Egino is a title. So Eithfed is not Polython's first name, it's her title within the PEA. Lasprin is Charlie's title, Egino is the sort of rank. So like with the knights, we've got the badgers, the wolverines, the lions. With the PEA, they've got the heathen, the Egino, the Lasprin, the Eithfed. So he was the same rank as Briar. Nim said sister when we told him who had fallen. Yeah, he said, Nim said when we told him who had fallen, Nim said that he had to get home to his sister as soon as possible. I don't think he said anything about his sister has fallen. Like she wasn't in the battle in any way. I'd like to find out which of the guilds is suffering the most by these deaths. Not people, but the function of the guild. All right. So you say, Apis speaks up and says, if I may, perhaps we should start with which of the guild's day-to-day functions will be most affected by the loss of these people. Which of the town's day-to-day functions is most reliant on the people that have now left a vacant hole in that space. The knights speak up and say, let's say Pertran speaks for them and says, well, speaking on behalf of the Knights of Kavosna, the chapter of Fondirg, I can say that the loss of Tao Chu is a great loss. Tao Chu is the only member of the Knights of Kavosna of Fondirg that had achieved the lion rank. And Nambra was due for a promotion within the next few months at the rate that she was going. I would say that Numbra and Tao Chu were probably the most experienced, and he looks across to the other knights present, Nathine, and let's say Maeve's there as well. Without offence meant, and both of them like wave and say, "No, you speak the truth." He says, "We are left with the loss of 2 of our field knights. That would be a great benefit to the town and the wider region's safety to have such experienced knights fighting for us again." Apis says, "So if I'm to understand from what you said, the reincarnate would give them a new body. Is that correct?" And Polython says, "That's correct, yes. Unfortunately, there is only a slight chance that they would come back as the same creature that they were. They may come back in a completely different race." Do you think the experiences of being a knight would be more important than their physical training, their muscle memory, their ability to duck and weave in the body that they've grown their lives with? Bertrand says, I don't know," and he sits back down. You look across to Polython. She sort of nods and stands and says, "My name is Polython Avadonor. I am the Eidfeld of the chapter of the Pencampur in Amblesheth here in Fondirg. The loss of Egan O'Mark will be felt tremendously by those of us who outlive him. I don't like to say that any one person in the Pencampur in Amgleshed are more vital than anyone else. Certainly not a judge of worth based on their rank. Mark knew a great deal, and had a great deal of promise when it came to the cultivation of plants. I would say," and she looks around to Charlie and Briar, "I think it would be fair to say that Mark knew more about plants than almost anyone else I've ever met." And Charlie sort of lets out almost like a scoff laugh, and it's like, "And anyone you ever will meet." Mark he had a way with cross-pollination and identification of plants. He was a gifted druid in many other aspects as well. But he knew about the botany of plants more than anything else. It was his life and his passion, and finding someone with his abilities, or finding a lack of anyone with his abilities, will set the Pencampur and Amgleshed's potion production back significantly. Without his experience, we can expect a great deal of our plants to not survive the cultivation that they were undergoing. Our potion ingredients will be taken back. Somewhat ironically, it's partly because of his abilities with cultivation that we were able to procure the ingredients for the reincarnation in the first place. And then she sits back down. The eyes kind of like turn around the table and land on Nim. And Nim kind of comes to the realization that he's the leading authority for the Arcanists at the moment. And he says, I suppose I should speak. And he stands and says, I think it's it almost speaks for itself that I'm the one who has to talk here. The Arcanists on Taunt have lost. The Arcanists of Taunt have lost two. The most experienced two members of the faction. Without Vala, there is no Arcanists on Taunt. There is me and Nira, and he points across to her, and she like sort of nods. We have a handful of students learning from us. But without Vala, without Rebecca, we have no Arcanists on Taunt. We are set back years in our studies. We are set back in our abilities to any enchantment, any identification, any of the market for magical goods coming through the town. Without them, the Entente will grind to a halt. And then he just sits down. There's a moment of silence again. And then Merchuffy stands up and says, I think it's important that someone speak for them. So although they've meant a great deal to the town, Kevin and Michael, Quentin and Rupert and Hannah, they're all members of the community. They all stood up to fight for what they knew was right, and while we can't measure their worth as a baker or shoemaker, I think the loss of such brave souls to the town is a loss that we will feel dearly, regardless of who comes back and who does not. One way or another, we can't win here today. We are picking the best of a bad bunch of decisions. And it's at times like this that I regret becoming mayor. But it's these decisions that we can't shirk away from. It's these decisions, now more than ever, that this town needs us to stay strong and make what we think is the right decision. I trust all of you here today to vote for who you think will aid the town best in its recovery. He slides forward a box that's been standing in front of him, opens it up and takes out some parchment, and he tears up into smaller slips, and he just starts passing them around. He takes out of the box 2 bottles of ink and slides them both directions around the table, and then a bunch of quills he takes out from the bottom of the box and passes them around. I ask that you write down your choice in order. You can feel free to write as many or as few names as you wish, but I ask that you place them in order of who you think would aid the town in their recovery. You can take your time. And then it's vote time. It is vote time. What do we say, guys? What do we want to do? Should I just put it straight into a vote? I think that's probably for the best. Vala, Mark, Rebecca, Tauchu, Nambra. Is that the main 5? Vala, Mark, Rebecca, Tauchu, and Nambra. I think that's the main 5, isn't it? And then the others. We didn't all say Vala, no. There are people who are on the fence about it, so I want to put it to an actual poll. Who do we write down first? Vala. She is the head of the Arcanists Entente. She is a specialist of artificing and blood magic. She studies blood magic and fire magic. Rebecca. She is also a very powerful wizard within the Knights of the Arcanists Entente. Specializes in illusion magic. She was the one who made your bow invisible and made illusions to hide the ambush that when they attacked the boar. Mark. Mark is a relatively powerful druid of the Pencampur and Amgleshed and knows a lot about plant material and how to cultivate certain otherwise uncultivatable plants. Tao Chu. Tao Chu is a lion of the Knights of Kvosna, a very proficient fighter. And Nambra. Nambra is a wolverine of the Knights of Kvosna and an eldritch knight. She has abilities when she fights to utilize her spells within her fighting. I do like to give you moral decisions, don't I? I do like to give you moral decisions to have to make. Heavy stuff. It's the least even poll I've ever seen in TD. There's a lot of confirmation of what I thought might be the case, but I'm always open to being surprised in Twitch Tales. All right, with 78% of the vote, Apis writes in the following order: Vala, Mark, Tao Chu, Rebecca, Nambra, Kevin, and then every other name that has been mentioned. And then you fold up the piece of paper, and one by one, everybody around the table takes their paper and hands it back to Mayor Chuffy Gardens, who unfolds them and starts to read, one at a time. It is not unanimous. It is a close call. It is too close to count at first. And so with preferential voting, the process of about an hour's voting and counting takes place, where one by one Mayor Chuffy Gardens crosses off the people that have not been voted for, the people who have been voted for the least, rather. Every time he does so, he says a few words about them, what he remembers of them. He opens the table for those to say their own words about. It starts with the shopkeepers, the brave souls that stood up to fight for their town. It gets to Rebecca. Nim is in tears. Nira is in tears. It gets to Nambra. The knights are all stunned, shocked into silence. There are silent tears rolling down faces as each person says an anecdote, a story, something they remember of them. The first time they met Nambra, how her training went. The first time she discovered that she had eldritch powers. Throughout all of this, you can see that Nira is still almost wanting to speak up and say things, but she is not doing so. She can't find the words to speak. The voting continues, and it's down to the final three: Vala, Mark, Tao Chu. Tao Chu is the next one to be eliminated. And there is restrained anger, frustration, sadness from everybody present. Tao Chu doesn't get to being a lion rank of the Knight of Kvosna without earning respect among the entire town. This is a town of 1,000 people, remember. Everybody knows everybody. Everybody knows Tauchu and knows the force for good that he's been among the streets. People almost don't want to continue. But continue they must. At this point, Nira has gotten up from her chair and started to pace. As the final votes are counted, Mayor Chuffy turns to Polython and says, "Polython, if you would make preparations, it seems we're going to be asking Vala to come back to us." I didn't know Mark too well. Briar bursts into tears, just loudly bursts into tears, as soon as he makes it clear which one has won the vote. Her head hits the table as she's just sort of shaking. You get up and you go over and you hug her, and Charlie's done the same. Charlie's also kind of shaking. Polython, who has worked with Mark, has just been told that she needs to resurrect Vala instead. But she knows she has to do it. I didn't know Mark too well, but he was a pleasant sort. Kept to himself in the south of town. Barely ever saw him in the city walls, but any time I would pop by the greenhouse, always the most cheerful person. Brewed the best tea. Warm, welcoming fella. Polython's just kind of nodding through this. She stands from the table and says, I better get started. And he says, do you wish to say? She says, we will say our regards in due time. Thank you all for your patience today. I know that this was not an easy process for anyone. She sort of composes herself and leaves the room. Charlie stands to his feet and kind of helps Briar as well and says, like, come on, love. It's time for us to let's go and pay our respects to his work. And Briar just leaves the room with that. The knights have done the same. They've sort of stood up and they've kind of like paced a little, and they just kind of like stoically leave the room one at a time. Everybody's kind of filing out. What do you want to do? Cry. Apis sits down at the table and starts to weep. After a moment of crying, you notice that that Nira is speaking with Nim in hushed voices over on at the corner of the room. They've both gotten up and sort of walked over to the side, and Nira has kind of like got him to bend down so she can see him and speak with him. And he's got sort of a furrowed brow. He walks to the mayor and sort of leans down. It's now just basically you four in the room. And the mayor says, "Are you sure?" And you hear him say, "Sure." And then Nim says, "I mean, that's what Nira says." And he looks across to Nira and he says, "Necromancy?" She says, "As far as I know, she didn't want people to know, but she would visit a guy in the woods, said she was trying to help him with a problem. He might be able to help us. And that's where we're going to leave it for today. Thank you very much for joining me. I'll see you next week for Twitch Tales. Bye-bye. Oh, damn, is it over already? Well, my Patreons get an exclusive first look at all my new videos, so maybe the next one's live over there already. Go check it out.